Good afternoon, everyone. This is Skip Hank, President and CEO of Xplor International, and I want to welcome you to today's webinar sponsored by Xenos and Actuate. Today's webinar is entitled Advantages of Single Statement Design for Multi-Channel Delivery. Our speaker today is Jeff Williams, who is Director of Product Management. A little bit about Jeff. He has a Bachelor of Science degree from University of Toronto. He majored in economics and computer sciences. He has a pragmatic marketing certification. Been involved in the HBTO and ECM markets for over 10 years and involved specifically in the product management side for over 5 years. So Jeff leads the product management group at Xenos, where he interacts closely with virtually all the departments in the organization, as well as external customers and prospects, to drive overall product direction and gather market research. Before we begin, I wanted to share a few tips with you. As an attendee, you'll see an attendee control panel, which can be expanded or collapsed by clicking the plus or minus on the left side of each pane. You can use the question and answer feature to send text questions. We are going to handle questions at the end of the presentation, so please, as we go along, submit your questions. You can click the square to toggle the viewer window between full screen and window mode. We are recording this webinar, so you're going to have the ability to listen to the recorded event via Xplor's website. Normally takes us 3 to 4 business days to get it on the website and converted, and you'll receive an email when it's ready. I would like to note that all the data and information provided in this webinar and expressed by the presenters is for informational purposes only. Xplor International makes no representations as to the accuracy, completeness, suitability, or validity of any of the information. So now please join me in welcoming Jeff. Jeff?
Thank you very much, Skip. First thing, I'd just like to congratulate you and Xplor International on such a great event out there in Florida. We had a great time, and there's a lot of interesting information floating around out there.
Well, thank you.
Today I'll be talking about the advantages of a single statement design for multi-channel delivery. This is similar to the presentation I did at Xplor, but really focusing on the particular problem with customer communications. Right now, from speaking with our customers and prospects, I find out that consumers are demanding a lot more relevant information that can be in the form of structured data, unstructured data, print content, images, and we're even seeing social content coming up. And consumers want to readily access and interact with their content when, where, and how they wish. So when we look at this can be solved with a system of engagement that leverages a single statement design approach for seamless multi-channel delivery, adding interactivity and content analytics while maintaining regulatory compliance for stored customer communications. So it seems that the way of doing business today is changing faster than ever. Customers and consumers are leading the charge, telling organizations how they want to be communicated with. Although these demands are changing the way organizations communicate with their customers, the way we go about creating these communications is slow to embrace these preferences. Organizations still create vast amounts of customer here, including letters, invoices, statements, and marketing material. Is somebody not on mute?
All right, Bobby, we taking a break? 5-minute break.
Okay, that seems to have helped. With the proliferation of social media, quick access to information and content regardless of the time or place, as well as new mobile devices, channels, and formats coming to market at an increased pace, consumers are demanding a paradigm shift from the companies they do business with. They're asking us to think differently and create systems of engagement around our systems of record. Now, our demand for information today seems insatiable, and yet it seems to drive the creation of even more data. An IBM CMO study revealed that every day we create over 2.5 quintillion bytes of data. A couple of years ago, Eric Schmidt at Google stated, "We create as much information in 2 days now as we did from the dawn of man through 2003. And finally, a study done at the University of San Diego shows us that 9.57 zettabytes of information is consumed each year. That number is 9.757 times 10 to the power 21. The amount of information that we're not just creating, but using and requesting is astounding. The World Wide Web has exponentially grown our demand for information at the speed at which we want it. This was proven on January 18th in 2012 when several websites, most notably Wikipedia, blacked out their screens in process of the SOPA and PIPA Acts before Congress. On that day alone, 160 million users viewed the Wikipedia process. As I was driving into work that day, an elementary school teacher called into a radio show I listened to, and she was legitimately concerned that she could not get the information she needed for her lessons that day since she could not access Wikipedia. It's a scary testimony not just to our education system, but a testament to our desire for knowledge and information. To truly provide customers the type of user experience and relevant information they desire, we must think outside the box and leverage all forms of relevant information to truly provide a unique experience that is responsive to the end consumer's needs. Let's take stock of where we are today in the industry. To start, most organizations use many different technologies that need to be linked together to perform all the functions that their business requires. In some cases, these requirements are met by gluing products from multiple vendors together, often acquired over time as new requirements arose. Alternatively, some organizations implement multiple product stacks from a single vendor. This can result in purchasing additional software to make the required systems work together. When implementing a multiple products strategy, there's seldom the ability to monitor or provide oversight across all the product stacks that are implemented. Additionally, you may need to create one template per output channel that you're going to support when it comes to your document creation. For example, you may need to create AFP file for print and long-term storage, PDF for online presentment, or an XML for interactive online presentment. So in this situation, you can actually end up with multiple storage systems, each to support different channels. And alternatively, you can store in one format and transform or convert that to the desired format at presentation time, thus reducing the number of systems required to store different formats of the same content. Let's take a look at what this looks like. We have multiple sources of data contained in databases, CRM, ERP systems, as well as other sources. We have one, if not multiple, document composition systems using the data sources to create customer communications for different reasons and to be delivered on different channels. This also brings in the requirement for multiple templates to create the content. The output from the composition system must be stored in either an IDARS-style repository or an ECM repository, depending on the apps and channels that will be using it for presentment or the regulatory requirements regarding the storage of the content itself. The various presentment systems that have been implemented over time need to access this content in order to be able to serve it up over the appropriate channel in the appropriate format. Sometimes the presentment system or web content management system will retrieve transactional data directly from the source and present it, bypassing the stored content. This makes the whole system even more complex. Overall, by adding functionality requested by various business units, organizations end up with a hodgepodge of different systems all glued together, which affects performance, incurs greater cost, and requires multiple areas of expertise. Some of the disadvantages described in the described scenario are in the fact there are multiple document creation or composition systems that require those different areas of expertise. Also, you may be required to create a new separate template for each format that you want to generate. And this template is only used at the time the document's created and is generated and enters into the output management flow. There's also usually no way to track which template was used to create a particular historic document, or in some cases to track the changes to the layout of that document over time and link that back to the documents that are stored. I know it sounds pretty simple. Oh, sorry. So how do we go about making customer communications relevant to the customer? First, we need to keep the demands and preferences of the customer of the information in mind. In doing so, you can make content that's relevant to the consumer, as well as making content that's relevant to the channel that the consumer chooses to consume the content on. Also, typically, composition, storage, delivery are all point solutions glued together, causing nightmares for system maintenance and change management. So, when considering the way you want to communicate with your customers, you need to put yourself in their shoes, or better yet, ask them, how would you like me to talk to you? I know it sounds pretty simple, but you never know what you'll hear. We may throw around formats such as Flash, HTML5, video, PDF, but really that's just technology. It can be used to deliver anything in any way, and there's formats best suited for different channels. Let's not get hung up on the technology, but instead look at the requirements or desires of the consumers. Consumers of information can take in so much more data these days than they've ever been able to in the past. That's why it's important to give them the ability to consume information in a format that they want and one that's relevant to the channel that they're using. Consumers want access to more data. They want the ability to look at historical data in conjunction with their current data and perform trending and analytics. Customers want to see if they're getting the most value out of their relationship with an organization in an age where trust requires proof. Customers want to have an interactive experience when viewing content online. A static PDF document or image of a statement that must be interpreted is no longer a competitive advantage. Consumers are demanding to be able to sort their information, slice it and dice it, and gain access to even more information than ever before. Additionally, they need it to be accessible, not just from a Section 508 or a visually impaired standpoint, but they need to get access to the content wherever they want. They need that content to be accessible from any channel, any device, anytime, and anywhere. So in order to create relevance, we need to present content across all relevant channels for the consumer. There's a few options in doing this. First, you may need to create one template per output channel you're going to support. For example, you may need to create AFP for print, PDF, or HTML for online and mobile presentment. In this situation, you can end up with multiple storage systems, each supporting a different storage channel. Second, you can store in one format, such as AFP, and transform or convert that to the desired format at presentment time. The advantage here is reducing the number of systems required to store different formats of the same content. You also reduce some of the templates at document creation time. The third, how about we create a single document design that can generate across content in formats that are accessible for each channel that it's required on. We already have the document stored for its required retention period in an archive, so we have the project that created it stored along with it. We can use that project to generate alternative views of that document suitable for the channel being viewed on. If The data still exists in the transaction systems that created it. We could query it and create a brand new view of the content or augment the existing content in the statement. If the data doesn't exist anymore for longer-term content, we can mine the relevant information from the document or create the view. We could store the data along with the template. And by presenting in this fashion, we can make sure the content being presented is always relevant to the consumer. For example, if I were to bring up a bank statement on my BlackBerry in PDF format, I have a really tough time navigating through it. The screen just isn't big enough for me to zip around and review the information that I want. If I'm able to view it in an app from my BlackBerry, then I have more control over how I sort, filter, interact, and understand my data. The same goes for other smartphones and tablets. Consider an internal operational report. These old green bar line data reports. 1,000 pages of line data regarding tax collection across 58 counties and 482 cities and towns in the state of California. Image viewing that report on a smartphone, tablet, or even a PC, you could need to export it into Excel, create pivot tables, and generate graphs to glean any useful information on it. Or you could have a custom application that queries that line data report and creates an online version with pivot tables and sortability and analysis on that content. So the relevant channel will provide the relevant user experience. Diving into the single design a bit deeper, we can use the single design application to create the print-ready version of the statement. This is what is regulatory required to be stored for either 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, or say the life of an insurance policy holder. We can use that one single statement design to create the online version of that statement. We can use it to create an interactive version of the statement, create a mobile or tablet version of the statement, or even to create business intelligence dashboards on the content that's stored within those statements. The advantages, well, there's no need for disparate composition or design environments for different channels. You can store the template and design with the content to always be able to reproduce that original document. And the consumer can choose how, when, and where they want to use this content. Ultimately, we'd have no need for document creation, storage, or regulations if the documents did not need to be ultimately delivered to the target audience. So let's talk a bit about the delivery or presentment aspect of customer communications. The format and channel of customer communications is evolving at a faster rate than anyone could have imagined. And it's going to continue this momentum. Traditional channels and formats such as print and mail and static online web browser delivery are still viable and required. However, customers are demanding much more. The non-traditional and emerging channels are interactive online, mobile, social media, things like YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Quora, blogs. Now, I know I'm bringing up social here, and first of all, I'm not suggesting that the First National Bank of Walla Walla, Washington is going to post a credit card bill to my Facebook wall for everyone to see. Social media is a relatively new channel that so far has been leveraged for social communication or collaboration, with much of the money being made on it attributed to advertising and premium services. Many organizations have derived ways to consume information posted on social media channels to perform BI, sentiment analysis, and trending. There are ways to tie these channels for marketing when speaking about customer correspondence. Most approaches currently involve mashups, displaying relevant content from social media feeds about the content that's being displayed, but not using it to affect the presentation of the content itself. For example, if I created an internal portal for my employees around the purchase order approval, I may want to display reviews for the items from the purchase order, or the company provided the items beside the purchase order document to get a better understanding about the quality of the products or the reputation of the company before approving or denying it. On the flip side, I may want to post a comment to my Facebook wall, send out a tweet or about a piece of correspondence that I received, or even like a new offer that was linked to the one-to-one correspondence. Right now, the sky's the limit when it comes to how we want to use the big data that's contained on these social media sites for the world to consume. These channels are currently blue ocean for organizations. However, they're becoming a necessity by the consumers, so we must look at ways to leverage them. One area we can leverage is providing customers with notifications about new content through their social media channels. We can incorporate promotions into their customer correspondence that they can spread to their contacts, friends, followers, etc. This can create a closed feedback loop for marketing and have the consumers promote the brand virally. There's another way I can foresee social media being used in the future. What if I had insight into customers' habits and preferences before I delivered the content to them, or better yet, right at the time it was requested, effectively tailoring my message to them on the spot? I could let the consumer tell me through activities they've performed in their social media circles what they want from me without them having to tell me what they want from me. This could be achieved by using information the customers freely posted into their preferences. Note, I haven't seen this strategy being used. However, it really does go to show that social media will become an important part of customer communications management, and we have not yet seen all the ways it can be leveraged. So, what is a system of engagement? Well, a system of engagement utilizes and integrates many of the facets of output management, ECM, CRM, social media, and ECM technologies, creating a unified system that enables customers to interact with an organization how, when, and where they want to. This helps reduce costs associated with customer support and infrastructure while maximizing customer satisfaction and increasing customer retention. In short, it's a system that provides relevant content to the consumer in the way they want it. Let's look at a system of engagement in comparison to the many output management and multi-channel distribution strategy we explored at the beginning of the webinar. In this situation, we still have multiple sources of data contained in databases, CRM, and ERP systems, as well as other sources. We have one document creation system creating customer correspondence, since this application can create all the output formats required for traditional and contemporary channels. Alongside it, you also have the various templates to create the document types. The output from the document creation system is stored in a repository. In this case, we have one repository alongside the templates that created it, so it can be used at the presentment side to generate the multiple output formats for those channels. As well, there's the single statement of record stored in this repository, which will keep the regulatory requirements. Since the template is stored within the document management system, possibly with the data, you don't need multiple storage systems for each channel. And the final piece is the document delivery applications, which can support multiple channels as well, since it can dynamically create the appropriate format for the channel. Additionally, we can add social channels and as an output channel or as a feed to help drive content presentment. From the document creation point of view, you can achieve storage efficiencies when a single system controls the creation, storage, and presentment of content. Within the storage of the content, a single system can provide the chain of custody, since documents of record do not need to be passed from system to system. And from a delivery and presentment standpoint, by not linking a single design, as mentioned before, with the content that it created to support multiple channels, you can most effectively address multi-channel delivery while maintaining channel relevance. Similar, a system provided through a single vendor helps address this challenge too. Many vendors provide APIs to integrate disparate technologies. However, this is typically not enough. trying to tie systems together through batch scripts, custom applications that make use of multiple APIs, as well as file-based I/O through file drops and directory watches no longer need to be the standard. Through a single system, performance gains can be realized through streamed I/O within the system. If design, creation, storage, and delivery are tightly integrated, then you can optimize your entire system for searching. You can add additional indexes to existing content, optimize your storage strategy, as well as monitor every aspect of the system. In order to address the challenges of needing to glue together many different technologies to create the ideal implementation, we've looked at implementing a single system provided by a single vendor, as well as leveraging seamless integration of document creation, document storage, and document delivery and presentment. So I know I've covered quite a bit. I just wanted to convey that although there's a lot of options out there for creating, sorting, delivering documents, most of these options involve plugging disparate pieces of technology together without a single system overseeing this process. There's always a place for best-of-breed systems, niche systems that can perform one task really well with all the bells and whistles that anyone could possibly want. But for the other 90%, there's systems that can perform the document output process seamlessly from creation to deletion to multi-channel presentment, providing peace of mind, streamlined costs, without the risk of certain pieces needing to be updated or one link in the chain being retired. Single vendor sourcing helps assure this at least minimal vendor sourcing minimizes previous risks. Also, by implementing a single design approach for your document output and delivery strategy, you can ensure that the consumer of your customer correspondence will always be able to communicate with your organization in the way that's most relevant to them and on the channel that they prefer. I'd like to just give you a brief overview of Actuate. Actuate has over 5,000 customers globally in a diverse range of business areas, including financial services and the public sector. Actuate's headquartered in San Mateo, California, with offices worldwide, and is listed on the NASDAQ under the symbol BIRD. Actuate's a leader in the business intelligence and reporting space with over 5,000 customers globally in a diverse range of business areas, including financial services. Actuate founded and co-leads the Eclipse BIRD open source project, which has over 1 million developers worldwide and over 10 million downloads of open source BIRD. And the Xenos group of Actuate provides an application framework for the development, implementation, and management of enterprise-class output and content management solutions. So with that, Skip, I'll hand it back to you if there's any questions. I know I've gone a little short on time here.
Well, there are questions, Jeff. Thanks. That was great. The Wikipedia thing was pretty interesting. I wasn't aware of that. So anyway, yeah, there are quite a few questions here. Let me get to them. The first question, this is specific to your software. Can your software be used to create bank statements that have check images as part of the statement?
Yes, they can. That's something that we've been sort of bread and butter for us, being able to create bank statements, customer statements, high net worth statements, along with inserting check images from other systems and creating either high volume print versions of this, maybe inserting check images on the fly when they're being presented, so you only have to store them once. So we've been doing that for quite a while.
Okay, the next questions. What BERT modules from Actuate would be needed to create a bank statement with check images, color images, which can be converted to e-statements, mobile, and tablet form?
So the BERT technology that's required there is the actuate commercial BERT that would be responsible for retrieving the content. You design your statements in the BERT Designer Pro, and it would be used to create the statements, whether it be in PDF or whether it be output as AFP, and then that could be used with the design and the data to output via either information console or other channels for, say, PDF to mobile devices. Actuate also recently has gone through and done its HTML5 gadgets so that they can all be viewed appropriately on tablet or on iOS tablet devices as well as Android.
Okay. This one is a question about, could you please elaborate a little bit more on compliance? Not sure what they're looking for.
Okay, so from a compliance standpoint, there's different regulatory requirements out there for storing customer correspondence. So you have things like SOX, you have Basel II, you have HIPAA, and each of these requirements applies to different industries. For example, a consumer credit card statement or banking statement needs to be stored for in North America for 6 years. In many parts of Europe, it needs to be stored in its original format and reproducible as a statement of record for 10 years. Under HIPAA, for the health insurance documents need to be archived as a statement of record for the life, or for the entire life of the policyholder, I believe, plus 2 years. So in terms of compliance, regulatory compliance, I was referring really to the amount of time and the way that content needs to be stored in its original format that's reproducible.
Okay. Next one. Compliance attorneys will tell you that content interpretation is vulnerable to look and feel inconsistencies between the various channels. Therefore, consistent text flow, example, line, paragraph, and page breaks must be maintained between all delivery channels. Can you address or provide some insight on this challenge?
Sure. Through our experience, by providing let me just give you a little bit of background. On the Xeno side, we've been involved for over 30 years in the high-volume transactional output space. What we do for our customers, many of our customers, is to take that statement of record that was originally created in a print-ready format such as AFP and convert that to a PDF format that can be viewed online. That PDF format has effectively replaced the print content that would have gone out to the customer. Now, many of the banks out there providing online statements, they'll put out a not a work in progress, but a time-bound transactional version of your content so that you can take a look at your individual spends, but they're required to create a point-in-time statement of record. And typically they'll present that to you as PDF online, or by request you can get it as a printed copy. Now, in presenting different versions of content, you have to keep in mind that that single statement of record, as it was created, always needs to be available through whatever channel is being presented on. So when we're talking about alternate views of information, providing analytics, providing content interactivity, those don't replace that statement of record. Those need to be provided alongside as an alternative to that statement of record with the statement of record always being available from that appropriate channel. So I hope that answered the question.
Okay. Next question is, which version of Xenos would support AFP to XML?
Which version? Well, AFP to XML has been around in Xenos for quite a while. It's under our Transformation Services for Documents, which is our all Java version. Alternately, you can, in an older version, you can utilize the rec scripting to convert and extract the content and write out your own XML. But natively, that's available within Transformation Services for Documents.
Yeah, this is kind of
for many previous versions.
Okay. Yeah, this is kind of an add-on. It said they're currently using AFP or AFT to PDF right now and would like to use AFT to XML also. So.
Okay, so that just requires the XML writer then, if they're on our Java version.
Okay. Next question, please describe how your software can be used by a print service provider in conjunction with the client to create, analyze, and provide feedback on a marketing campaign.
That's a very good question. So I'll have to think about that one for a minute. The print service provider, and many print service providers use our software for taking print and converting it to other formats or creating electronic versions of that to store within the archive and index for storing in the archive. Now, it can also be used to create customer or one-to-one customer correspondence, inserting based on rules certain ads in white space. Some of the areas that I've been looking at or that we've been looking into, not necessarily there yet, are some of the concepts I mentioned around the social media and that closed loop feed where you create personalized URLs, and those can be tracked through the marketer's web or website, or you send them to the marketer's Facebook page or landing site to receive that promotion. I'd actually be interested to hear a lot more about the requirements, so whoever asked that question, please send us an email and we can discuss this further.
Okay. This one's a little more vague, but I'll throw it out there anyway. Archiving, customer-facing, could you discuss security?
Sure. Well, in archiving customer-facing documents, it's really up to the organization that is that's storing them. There's various things out there. For example, you have PCI, the Payment Card Industry Compliance, which usually applies to how you store content within a banking system or a credit card system. But in general, documents that are stored need to be encrypted. The database needs to be encrypted that's used to store the metadata, and all access into and out of the archive or the repository needs to be encrypted and password protected. Additionally, there's ways to ensure that through the encryption of the hard drive itself or the storage layer that would help ensure that there's, in this case, in PCI, that you'd ensure the PCI compliant storage. So I hope that addressed the question. It was slightly vague.
Yeah, and of course, if anybody has any questions, feel free, to contact Jeff. You'll have the information when we send you the email. So Okay, moving along. This is always a classic question for you, Jeff. Please compare your product to HP Extreme and GMC Inspire, etc.
Sure. When it comes to statementing applications and document composition, there's a lot that goes into creating a document composition system. And for many of the organizations out there, you do require a lot of the functionality in, say, HP Extremes or EMC DocSci or GMC products. But when it comes to our offering, which would be the BERT for statements, basically there are less bells and whistles. You can create your statements. You can create high volume correspondence. You can reach into the multiple different data sources that all of your data and transactional content is in, perform aggregations and things on these statements themselves. But if you do require additional things such as workflow, approval workflow and steps, and some of the other bells and whistles with respect to plugins for things like Adobe InDesign and plugins for Word to do your statementing design, then you may require, at least at this point in time, a more fully functioned and robust, let's say, document composition engine instead of a more lightweight, not lightweight, but easier flowing statement design system.
Okay, another question here. So with the scenario you described at the beginning of the presentation, what is critical step one? The central data repository?
So the scenario that I described, so basically I believe that refers to the graphic with the multiple areas. And the single storage area, the single repository, does definitely help you. I think one of the major pieces is the fourth piece, which is on the presentment side. There's a way that you can create this multiple channel delivery system without needing to rip out your composition pieces and rip out your multiple storage. And it is something that we can do based on content that's already stored in various content management systems that is produced from various composition systems. The only drawback to that is that for us to do that, we need to create a template to describe the content on the page so that it can then be made available to be presented in multiple different channels. But I would look at the biggest bang here in terms of creating relevancy for your customer in ways that they would want to interact with the content would be on the presentment side.
Okay. There's just a question here. Is this webinar being recorded? Are the sites available for download? Yes, it is being recorded, and you'll receive an email from Xplor in 4 or 5 days with a link that you can get it. And Jeff, are you okay with us providing a PDF of the slides?
Sure, that's fine, Skip.
Okay, and we'll include a link for PDF of the slides, so you'll have all of that. So that'll be taken care of. One last question here. Is there a way to enable multi-channel presentment on top of the historical content within our repository without implementing a new statement engine or composition system?
Yeah, and that's similar to the question prior to, are the slides available? Yeah, basically, as I mentioned, we have the ability, or we have the offering that can sit at the presentment level and retrieve content that's already been stored in content management systems. You don't need to implement a different repository. You don't need to implement different statementing application or composition application, where we do have just an additional, it would be an additional template per document type that would provide the understanding to the statements already stored, make sense of them, and provide that out to different channel formats. I guess basically what I was presenting here is there is the sort of ideal scenario where you have this single system that you can create statements or communications out of, store it alongside of what you need for your regulatory purposes, and present that out to all the channels utilizing this one statement design. And that's an ideal situation, but there are ways to essentially get the same effect with existing infrastructure.
Okay, let me check, see if there's any other questions. That seems to be it, Jeff. Great information. I learned quite a bit. Very well presented. Thank you so much. So that will conclude today's webinar. We want to thank you, Jeff, for sharing, and for Xenos and Actuate for sponsoring the webinar.
Thank you, Skip.
I really enjoyed it. I want to remind everybody to go to www.xplor.org often for updates on Xplor's programs, information on upcoming events. If you happen to be in the Dallas area next week, we're having the XView on the road next week, May 1st, and I'd love you to come as my guest. So if you're interested in that, you can email me. And with that, we'll now disconnect. So thank you all. Have a great day.